Captain Lee Taman stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise and watched the massive station grow larger on the viewing screen. Nexus 7 was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. It orbited a neutron star, and the metal surface reflected strange blue light that made everything look cold and distant. "We're approaching Docking Bay 12, Lieutenant Han Minho said from the navigation console. His voice was steady, but Taman could hear the nervousness underneath. This was Minho's first diplomatic mission to the Council. "Take us in slowly," Taman ordered. He adjusted his uniform and checked his appearance in the polished wall panel. Everything had to be perfect. The Council judged humans on every tiny detail. Behind him, Ambassador Park Ji-won reviewed her presentation one more time. She had spent 3 months preparing this proposal. Humanity wanted permission to establish trade routes through the Outer Rim territories. Human survey ships had been mapping those regions for 3 years. The space was unclaimed, empty, and perfect for human expansion. "Do you think they'll approve it?" Dr. Choi Nari asked. The medical officer stood near the back of the bridge, her dark eyes worried. Ji-won smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "They have to. The law is clear. Unclaimed territories can be developed by any council member. We've followed every regulation perfectly." Commander Kang Hyun grunted from the security station. "The law doesn't matter if they don't respect us." "They will," Ji-won said firmly. "We just need to be patient. We've been part of the council for 15 years now. They're starting to see us as equals." Hyun didn't respond, but Taman saw him shake his head slightly. The security commander had never trusted the alien species that made up the Galactic Council. He thought they looked down on humans and always would. The ship docked smoothly. Taman led the delegation through the airlock and into the station. The corridors were massive, built to accommodate species much larger than humans. Everywhere they walked, aliens stared at them. Some looked curious. Most looked amused or dismissive. A group of tall, blue-skinned Vrin walked past, their conversation stopping as they noticed the humans. One of them laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "Look, the children are here to play government again." Ji-won kept walking, her face calm. But Taman saw her hands clench into fists for just a moment before she relaxed them. They entered the council chamber an hour later. The room was circular and huge, with seats arranged in tiers that rose toward the ceiling. 12 species sat in those seats, representatives of the civilizations that controlled 4 galaxies. Humanity's seat was at the bottom, the lowest position, marked with a small sign that said probationary member. Councillor Thexlar, the Vrin leader, sat in the highest seat. His scales gleamed silver under the lights, and his eyes were cold as they looked down at the human delegation. "Ambassador Park Ji-won of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You requested this emergency session. Proceed." Ji-won stepped forward. Her voice was clear and confident as she activated her presentation. Holographic displays showed the Outer Rim territories, marked with human survey data and proposed trade routes. Honored counselors, humanity has completed extensive surveys of the Outer Rim regions. These territories are unclaimed and rich in resources. We propose establishing trade routes and colonies in accordance with council law. Our projections show." "Denied," Thexlar said. Ji-won stopped, surprised. "Counselor, I haven't finished the presentation. If you would review the data." "We don't need to review anything," another counselor interrupted. This one was a blob-like creature that communicated through a translation device. "Humans are too young for such expansion. You've only been in space for 300 years. Most species wait 1,000 years before major colonization." "But the law says," Ji-won began. "The law is for full council members," Thexlar said coldly. "You hold probationary status. Perhaps in another century, when you've proven yourselves less aggressive, we'll reconsider." Taman felt anger rise in his chest. They had followed every rule, prepared everything perfectly, and the council was dismissing them without even looking at the evidence. Ji-won remained calm. "With respect, Counselor, our probationary period was supposed to be reviewed after 15 years. That time has passed. We've met every requirement for full membership." Thexlar leaned forward. "You'll achieve full membership when we decide you're ready. Not before. Your species is emotional, violent, and unpredictable. You nearly destroyed your own planet before reaching the stars. Why would we trust you with expansion rights?" "Because we learned from our mistakes," Ji-won said quietly. "We unified our world. We ended our wars. We've been peaceful members of this council for 15 years. What more do we need to prove? Time will tell, Thexler said. Proposal denied. The session is concluded. The council members stood and began filing out. Just like that. 3 months of work was rejected in less than 5 minutes. Jiwan stood alone in the center of the chamber, her presentation still glowing in the air around her. Taemin walked down to stand beside her. Ambassador, I'm fine, she said softly, but her hands were shaking. That evening, the human delegation attended a council reception. It was supposedly a social event, a chance for different species to interact informally, but Taemin quickly realized it was just another opportunity for the other species to mock humanity. I heard humans only live about 100 years, a reptilian counselor said loudly, clearly intending for the humans to hear. How do they accomplish anything meaningful in such a short time? They don't, another one replied, laughing. That's why they're still probationary. Engineer Kim Soha stood next to Taemin, her jaw tight. How long do we have to endure this? As long as it takes, Jiwan said, approaching them with 2 drinks. She handed one to Soha. Diplomacy requires patience. But even as she said it, Taemin could see the doubt in her eyes. How much patience was too much? When did persistence become humiliation? Dr. Nari joined them, her face troubled. Captain, I need to speak with you privately. They moved to a quiet corner. Nari pulled out her data pad and showed him a series of readings. I've been monitoring our survey stations in the Outer Rim. Over the past 2 weeks, 3 of them have detected unusual energy signatures. It looks like ship movements, but they're not our vessels. Did you report this to the council? Taemin asked. Ambassador Park did. They said we were being paranoid. Nari's expression was worried. But Captain, these readings are consistent with military-grade engines. Someone is moving warships near our survey stations. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. Keep monitoring. Report any changes directly to me. Across the room, Commander Hyun stood alone, watching the various alien species laugh and drink. His expression was dark. He walked over to Taemin and spoke in a low voice. We should leave this council. They'll never respect us. We can't, Taemin said. Earth's government believes in this. Ambassador Park believes in this. Do you believe in it? Hyun asked. Taemin looked around the room at the aliens who considered humans inferior. He thought about the dismissive way Thexlar had rejected their proposal without even listening. He thought about the energy signatures near their survey stations that the council refused to investigate. I believe we have to try, he finally said. But deep down, a small voice whispered that maybe Hyun was right. Maybe the council would never see humans as equals. Maybe respect couldn't be earned through patience and diplomacy. Maybe it had to be taken. 3 weeks passed quietly. The Horizon's Promise remained docked at Nexus 7, while Ambassador Park Jiwan tried to build relationships with more moderate council members. She met with the Teller delegation, who seemed sympathetic. She shared meals with the insectoid Cheer, who at least listened to human concerns. Progress was slow, but it was progress. Then at 0300 station time, everything changed. Captain Lee Taemin was asleep in his quarters when the emergency alarm screamed to life. He was on the bridge in less than 2 minutes, still pulling on his uniform jacket. Report, he snapped. Lieutenant Minho's face was pale. Distress signal from New Haven Colony. You need to hear this, sir. He pressed a button. Static filled the bridge, then a voice came through, broken and terrified. Under attack. Unknown ships, they're firing on the civilian centers. We need help! Oh God, they're targeting the schools. The sound of explosions, screaming, a child crying, please. Somebody help us. They're killing everyone. The transmission ended in static. Taemin felt his blood turn to ice. New Haven was humanity's largest colony outside Earth's solar system. 50,000 people lived there. Families, children, people who had traveled across the stars to build a new life. Get Ambassador Park and Commander Hyun to the bridge immediately, Taemin ordered. His voice sounded strange, distant. Minho, calculate fastest route to New Haven. Soha, I need maximum engine power. That's 3 days away, even at full speed, Engineer Kim Soha said from her station. Then we start now. Prepare for departure. Ambassador Jiwan arrived on the bridge, her hair still loose from sleep. What's happening? Taemin played her the distress call. He watched the color drain from her face as she listened to people dying. Contact the council, she said immediately. There are Vrin patrol fleets only 6 hours from New Haven. They can get there in time to help survivors. Taman opened a channel to the Council Emergency Command Center. A bored-looking Vryn officer appeared on the screen. "This is Captain Lee Taman of the human vessel Horizon's Promise. We have a colony under attack at coordinates." "We're aware," the officer interrupted. "That location is in disputed territory. Council forces don't respond to incidents in disputed regions." "Disputed?" Taman's voice rose. "We've been surveying that region for 3 years. We filed all the proper claims." "Which were never approved," the officer said. "Therefore not our jurisdiction. Anything else?" "There are 50,000 people dying." Jiwan stepped forward, her diplomatic calm cracking. "You have ships 6 hours away. They could save lives. Not our jurisdiction," the officer repeated. "If your people choose to settle in unclaimed space, they accept the risks. Perhaps this will teach your species to stay where you belong." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the blank screen, unable to process what they'd just heard. 50,000 humans were being slaughtered, and the Council was refusing to help. Commander Hyun's voice was deadly quiet. "Permission to contact Earth Fleet Command." "Granted," Taman said. "Tell them we need every available ship at New Haven. Now." The Horizon's Promise departed Nexus 7 at full speed. Behind them, no Council ships moved to help. The 3-day journey was the longest of Taman's life. They received no further transmissions from New Haven. The silence was worse than the screams. Dr. Choi Nari prepared the medical bay for casualties. She organized her supplies with shaking hands, hoping she'd need them, hoping there would be survivors to treat. When they finally arrived at New Haven, the colony was silent. The orbital station was destroyed, broken into pieces that drifted through space. The planet's surface showed burn marks visible from orbit. No lights, no transmissions, no life signs. "Take us down," Taman ordered quietly. The Horizon's Promise landed near what had been the colony's main settlement. Taman, Hyun, and Nari led teams down to the surface. The settlement was ruins. Buildings were collapsed, the streets were covered in blast marks, and everywhere there were bodies. Dr. Nari knelt beside a woman lying in the street. The woman was holding a child. Both were dead. Nari checked for vital signs anyway, her hands gentle even though she knew it was hopeless. "They're all gone," she whispered. "Everyone." Commander Hyun examined the blast patterns. Military-grade weapons. This wasn't raiders or pirates. This was an organized assault. He pulled out a scanner and ran it over the debris. "These energy signatures, they match Vryn technology." "The Council did this?" Minyo asked, his voice breaking. "Not directly," Hyun said grimly. "But look at these markings on the hull fragments. Council auxiliary forces, mercenaries hired by Council members. They spent 2 days searching. 2 days walking through streets filled with the dead. They found families killed in their homes, students dead at their desks in schools, farmers shot in their fields, 50,000 people. Not a single survivor." On the 3rd day, Hyun's team found something in an underground server that had survived the attack. Security footage from the colony's surveillance system. Taman watched the footage with Jiwon and Hyun. They saw ships arrive in orbit. Ships with Council markings. They saw troops land and begin systematically executing civilians. They saw children running and being shot down. They saw colonists begging for mercy and receiving none. The footage showed a close-up of one of the attacking soldiers removing his helmet. The face was Vryn. "They wanted to send a message," Hyun said quietly. "This wasn't about resources or territory. They wanted to teach us our place." Ambassador Park Ji-won sat down slowly. For 15 years, she had believed in the Council. She had defended them to skeptics on Earth. She had argued that different species could work together peacefully. She had staked her entire career on the belief that respect could be earned through patience and diplomacy. 50,000 dead people proved her wrong. "We're returning to Nexus 7, she said. Her voice was empty, hollow. "I'm calling an emergency council session." "Ambassador," Taman began. "They'll answer for this," Jiwon continued. "We have evidence, video, weapon signatures. They can't deny it." Taman wanted to tell her that yes, they could deny it. They could and would. But looking at her face, he couldn't bring himself to take away the last shred of her faith. The Horizon's Promise lifted off from New Haven, leaving 50,000 graves behind. Dr. Nari sat in the medical bay staring at her hands. She had become a doctor to save lives. She had joined the space program because she believed all sentient species deserved care and compassion. She had treated alien patients with the same dedication she gave humans, and those same aliens had committed genocide while she spoke at conferences about interspecies medical cooperation. The irony wasn't lost on her. The cruelty of it burned in her chest like acid. In his quarters, Commander Hyun checked and rechecked his weapons. He had always known this day would come. He had always known the Council would never accept humans as equals. He had tried to warn them. He took no satisfaction in being right. Lieutenant Minho sat at the navigation console, tears running down his face. This had been his first diplomatic mission. He had been so excited to see humanity take its place among the stars. He had believed they were building something beautiful. Now he knew the truth. The stars were just as cruel as Earth had ever been. The only difference was the scale of the cruelty. Engineer Kim Soha worked in the engine room, pushing the ship to maximum speed. She didn't cry. She just worked, her hands moving automatically while her mind replayed images of dead children in school uniforms. And Captain Lee Taman stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past as they traveled back to Nexus 7. He thought about the distress call, the screaming, the council officer who said it wasn't their jurisdiction. He thought about 50,000 people who died believing the Galactic Council would protect them. They were wrong, and Taman was going to make sure the Council understood the cost of that mistake. The Horizons Promise docked at Nexus 7 station 4 days after leaving New Haven. Ambassador Park Ji-won had sent 17 requests for an emergency council session during the journey. All 17 were ignored. She sent an 18th request. This one wasn't a request. It was a formal demand under Council Law Section 47, which stated that any member species had the right to petition the Council in cases of mass civilian casualties. The Council couldn't ignore that. Not legally. They scheduled a session for the following morning. That night, Captain Taman couldn't sleep. He stood in the observation deck, looking out at the massive station. Somewhere in there, the people who ordered the death of 50,000 humans were sleeping peacefully. Commander Hyun joined him. Earth Fleet has sent us new orders. Let me guess, Taman said. Hold position and await further instructions? Worse. Don't do anything that might damage diplomatic relations. Hyun's voice was bitter. Apparently President Yoon is hoping this can still be resolved peacefully. After New Haven, Taman turned to stare at him. How? She believes in the system. Same as Ambassador Park. Hyun looked out at the station. They're about to learn a hard lesson. The next morning, the human delegation entered the council chamber. This time, they weren't alone. Dr. Nari had spent the past 4 days compiling every piece of evidence from New Haven. Video footage, weapon analysis, survivor logs from the backup servers, medical reports on the dead. The chamber filled slowly. The council members took their seats, most of them looking annoyed at being summoned. Councillor Thexlar was the last to arrive, his silver scales gleaming as he settled into his high seat. Ambassador Park, he said, his tone bored. You invoked emergency protocols. This session was not optional, so here we are. Proceed. Ji-won stepped into the center of the chamber. She activated the holographic display, and suddenly the air was filled with images from New Haven. The destroyed buildings, the dead families, the security footage of council mercenaries killing civilians. 72 hours ago, New Haven colony was attacked, Ji-won said. Her voice was steady, but Taman could hear the rage underneath. 50,000 human civilians were systematically executed. The attacking forces used weapons matching Council technology and bore Council auxiliary markings. We have video evidence of the massacre. She played the footage. The Council chamber filled with the sounds of weapons fire and screaming. The holographic display showed children running from soldiers, families dying in their homes. Some Council members looked uncomfortable. Most showed no emotion at all. Thexlar watched with cold, unblinking eyes. When the footage ended, Ji-won spoke again. We demand a full investigation. We demand that those responsible be held accountable. 50,000 civilians, councillors, 50,000 innocent people murdered in their homes. Silence filled the chamber. Then Thexlar spoke. Your evidence is inconclusive. Inconclusive? Ji-won's voice rose. You watched the footage. We saw footage of ships that may or may not be Council forces attacking a settlement in disputed territory. Thexlar said calmly. The markings could have been faked. The weapon signatures could have been replicated. You're asking us to accept the word of a probationary species over established council members based on questionable evidence. Our people are dead, Commander Hyun shouted from behind Ji-won. 50,000 corpses aren't questionable. Then perhaps your people shouldn't have settled in unclaimed space, another counselor said. You were warned about the risks of unauthorized expansion. We filed proper claims, Ji-won said. We followed every regulation, which were never approved, Thexlar reminded her. Therefore, your colony was illegal. Any consequences of that decision are your own responsibility. Taemin stepped forward. They were families, children. Are you saying they deserve to die because of a bureaucratic technicality? I'm saying, Thexlar said coldly, that actions have consequences. If your species wants to play at colonization before you're ready, you must accept the risks. You ordered this. Ji-won's diplomatic mask finally cracked completely. You wanted the Outer Rim territories for yourselves and you removed our people by force. This is genocide. Thexlar stood, his massive form towering over the chamber. Genocide is a serious accusation, Ambassador. One you cannot prove. We have reviewed your evidence and find it insufficient to warrant investigation. This council has more important matters to attend to than the internal problems of a probationary species. Our internal problems? Dr. Nari's voice shook. You murdered children. This council had nothing to do with any deaths at New Haven, another counselor said firmly. And we resent the accusation. Perhaps this tragedy occurred because your people were unprepared for frontier life. Perhaps you should focus on protecting your own citizens rather than blaming others for your failures. Ji-won looked around the chamber desperately. Is there no one here who will speak for justice? No one who sees what's happening? A few council members shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke. Thexlar settled back into his seat. This matter is closed. Your petition is denied. And Ambassador Park, a word of advice. Your species holds probationary membership status. You have no legal standing to demand investigations or accountability from full council members. Perhaps this incident will teach you to know your place in the Galactic Order. Stay within your designated territories. Follow council guidance. Learn humility. Then perhaps in time you'll be worthy of full membership. He looked directly at Ji-won. Until then, remember that you are guests here. Guests should not make demands of their hosts. We're not guests, Ji-won said quietly. We're members. Probationary members, Thexlar corrected. There's a difference. One you should learn. Then let me ask the council this, Ji-won said, her voice steady now. If a full member species had 50,000 civilians massacred, would you investigate? Of course, Thexlar said. Then we are not equal. No, Thexlar agreed. You are not. Equality is earned over centuries, not demanded after decades. This session is concluded. The council members began to file out. Just like that, 50,000 dead humans were dismissed as unimportant, not worth investigating, not worth acknowledging. Ji-won stood alone in the center of the chamber as the holographic images of the dead slowly faded around her. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She wasn't sad or desperate. She was something else entirely, cold, calm, certain. She turned to Taemin. Contact President Yoon. Tell her I'm resigning as ambassador. What? I can't represent Earth in good faith to a council that commits genocide and faces no consequences. She looked at the empty seats where the counselors had sat. But I can help Earth respond to this properly. What are you suggesting? Commander Hyun asked, though his tone suggested he knew. The council speaks only one language, Ji-won said. Force. We've tried diplomacy. We've tried law. We've tried patience and respect and following every regulation perfectly. And they murdered 50,000 of our people anyway. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the empty chamber. It's time to teach them that humans don't beg for justice. We take it. Back on the Horizon's promise, Taemin opened a secure channel to Earth. President Yoon Mirai's face appeared on the screen, along with Admiral Song Daehyun, the commander of Earth's Third Fleet. Captain, President Yoon said, we've received Ambassador Park's resignation. What happened at the council session? Taemin told her everything. The dismissal, the denial, the cold certainty that human lives didn't matter to the council. When he finished, President Yoon was silent for a long time. Admiral Song, she finally said, what's the status of Project Retribution? Admiral Song Daehyun smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Fully operational, Madam President. 100 ships. Crew's trained and ready. We've been waiting for your order for 5 years. The council thinks we're weak, President Yoon said quietly. They think because we don't have ancient civilizations or massive empires that we're insignificant. They think we'll accept this and move on. She looked directly at the camera. Send a message to every human ship, every colony, every outpost. Recall everyone to Earth space immediately. Sever all diplomatic contact with the council. In Admiral Song? Yes, Madam President? Activate the Retribution Fleet. Show them what happens when you mistake human patience for human weakness. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, the crew stood in silence. They all understood what had just happened. After 15 years of peaceful cooperation, humanity had just declared war on the Galactic Council. And somewhere in the depths of Earth's orbital shipyards, 100 warships powered up their engines. Ships the Council didn't know existed, ships built in secret by a species the Council thought was too primitive to be a threat. The Council was about to learn a hard lesson. Humans had spent 10,000 years fighting each other before reaching the stars. They knew war better than any species in the galaxy. They had perfected it, refined it, and nearly destroyed themselves with it. Now all that terrible knowledge was focused on a new target. The galaxy was about to meet humanity's rage. 30 days after New Haven's destruction, the Retribution Fleet emerged from slipspace at the edge of Council territory. 100 warships appeared on every Council sensor array simultaneously, ships unlike anything the Council had seen before. Sleek, predatory, and bristling with weapons. Admiral Song Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical display. Around him, the fleet moved into formation with precision that came from years of secret training. All ships report ready, Admiral. His communications officer reported. Open a channel, Song ordered. All Council frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The channel opened. Song stood straight, his uniform perfect, his expression cold. This is Admiral Song Dae-hyun of the United Earth Fleet. 30 days ago, forces under Council authority massacred 50,000 human civilians at New Haven Colony. We brought evidence to the Galactic Council. They denied our petition for justice. They claimed the massacre never happened. They told us to know our place. He paused, letting the words sink in across every Council world. We know our place. Our place is standing against genocide. Our place is protecting our people. Our place is teaching those who commit atrocities that actions have consequences. The tactical display showed Council defense platforms activating, scrambling to respond to the sudden appearance of the human fleet. We have sent the Council evidence of their crimes. Song continued. Every species in this galaxy will see what was done to our people. They will see the Council's response. They will see who the real threat to galactic peace is. He nodded to his communications officer, who began broadcasting the New Haven footage on every public channel in Council space. Humanity demands the surrender of Councillor Thexlar and every individual involved in the New Haven massacre. You have 72 hours to comply. Failure to do so will result in military action against Council strategic targets. He leaned closer to the camera. We will not threaten civilians. We are not you. But military installations, command centers, and anyone who ordered or carried out the massacre will face justice. Earth justice. Not the corrupted mockery of law you practice in your Council chambers. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, now refitted with military-grade weapons, Captain Lee Taemin watched his display. The ship was part of the fleet now, along with Commander Hyun's Marine contingent. All ships, this is Admiral Song. First target, Kepler Station. That's where the mercenary fleet that attacked New Haven was based. We're going to send a message. The fleet moved. Kepler Station was a military facility on the edge of Vryn space. It had defense platforms, shields, and a garrison of 30,000 soldiers. The Council considered it impregnable. It took the human fleet 7 minutes to destroy it. Captain Shin Jae-ha commanded the dreadnought Vengeance, humanity's largest warship. Her railguns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, turning the station's shields into plasma. Fusion torpedoes followed, punching through the weakened defenses. Swarm missiles filled the space around the station, overwhelming point defenses. The Council's military technology hadn't changed in 500 years. Why would it? They had no enemies, no rivals. They had grown comfortable and lazy. Human military technology had been refined through constant warfare. Humans had fought with swords, then guns, then missiles, then nuclear weapons. They had learned to kill efficiently at every technological level. Now they brought all that terrible knowledge to space. The station's defenses collapsed. Colonel Oyuna's ghost company launched from dropships, boarding the damaged facility. They moved through the corridors with practiced precision, stunning defenders and securing key locations. Tech specialist Nam Ki-wan accessed the station's computer core. He bypassed alien security protocols that would have taken council experts weeks to crack. He did it in 40 minutes. "Admiral, we've got the data," Ki-wan reported. "Full records of the New Haven operation." Orders came directly from a council subcommittee. Thexler's signature is all over it. "Upload it to every news network in the galaxy," Song ordered. "Everyone needs to see this." Within hours, the truth spread across civilized space. The New Haven massacre had been ordered by the council's highest leadership. It wasn't an accident or a rogue operation. It was official policy. Remove the humans by force. The council had committed genocide and then lied about it. Response varied across different species. Some were horrified. Others defended the council. Many simply didn't care about human problems, but the council itself went into crisis mode. Emergency meetings were called. The fleet was mobilized. Councillor Thexler gave a public address calling humanity barbaric upstarts and claiming the New Haven colonists had been in violation of council law. He rallied the hardline council members to resist human demands. "We will not bow to threats from a junior species," Thexler declared. "The council has maintained order for 10,000 years. We will not allow humans to destroy that order." Admiral Song's response was simple. "You should have thought of that before you murdered children." The council fleet assembled at Nexus 7 station. 50 capital ships, each one 5 times the size of human vessels. The council was preparing to crush the human fleet and teach humanity a final, brutal lesson about power. The second battle of Nexus 7 began at dawn. Station time. The council fleet moved in a traditional formation. Massive ships arranged in defensive layers. Their tactics were conservative, designed to overwhelm through superior firepower and shields. The human fleet split into smaller squadrons and attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously. All ships. "Engage at will," Admiral Song ordered. "Show them why humans are dangerous." The battle was chaos. Human fighters moved through space with acceleration that would kill most species. Human pilots could endure forces that would turn alien blood to jelly. They burned through maneuvers that shouldn't be possible, their ships dancing through weapons fire. Captain Taman commanded the Horizon's Promise in an assault on the station's defensive platforms. The same station where the council had dismissed their pleas for justice. There was poetry in that. "Railguns, fire on Platform 7, he ordered calmly. The Horizon's Promise shook as metal slugs accelerated to 3% of light speed erupted from her guns. The platform's shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The third shot turned the platform into debris. "Target destroyed," Lieutenant Minho reported. "Moving to next target." All around them, the battle raged. Human ships took damage that should destroy them and kept fighting. Council ships, built for intimidation rather than real combat, began to break under the assault. The Council had forgotten how to fight. They had spent centuries as the unchallenged power in the galaxy. They had no enemies, no rivals. Peace had made them weak. Humanity had spent its entire history at war. Humans knew violence in a way the Council never could.
Every human ship was commanded by people whose ancestors had survived hundreds of wars.
Every human pilot had studied Earth's brutal military history. The Council was fighting a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing. The Council fleet broke. Capital ships that had seemed invincible turned and fled. The massive vessels that were supposed to inspire fear became targets as they tried to retreat. Human ships pursued, their weapons hammering the fleeing Council vessels. "Admiral, they're requesting a ceasefire," the communications officer reported. "Denied," Song said coldly. They had 72 hours to surrender the ones responsible for New Haven. Time's up. Continue the assault. Captain Shin Jaeha's vengeance caught up to a Vryn battlecruiser trying to escape. Her railguns tore through its engines, leaving it drifting and helpless. "This is Captain Shin Jaeha to the Vryn vessel. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds. The Vryn crew abandoned ship. By the end of the battle, Nexus 7 station was under human control. 15 Council capital ships were destroyed, 23 more were captured. The rest fled to Council core worlds, carrying word of their defeat. The species the Council had dismissed as too young, too weak, too emotional, had just broken their primary fleet. Admiral Song stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. The station was secure, the Council fleet was scattered, and humanity had proven its point. "Open a channel to all Council worlds," he ordered. When the channel opened, his message was simple. "Our terms have not changed. Surrender Councillor Thexler and all individuals involved in the New Haven massacre for trial. You have 72 more hours. If you refuse, we will continue destroying military targets until you comply." He looked directly at the camera. "You thought humans were weak. You thought we would accept genocide and move on. You were wrong. We are not going away. We are not backing down. We will have justice for our 50,000 dead. Or we will burn down every military installation in Council space until you give it to us." The transmission ended. Throughout the galaxy, species that had never taken humanity seriously began to understand something important. Humans were not the peaceful, naive species the Council had claimed. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had nearly destroyed itself through war, learned from it, and now possessed all the terrible knowledge of 10,000 years of violence focused on a single purpose. The Council had awakened something they couldn't control. The 72 hours passed in tense silence. Throughout Council space, species debated what to do about the human problem. Some argued for continued resistance. Others pointed out that the human fleet had destroyed or captured almost half the Council's military strength in a single battle. Councillor Thexlar gave defiant speeches, calling humanity barbaric and promising that the Council would never surrender to upstart terrorists. But quietly, behind closed doors, other Council members were having different conversations. Councillor Vaynara of the Teller called a secret meeting with moderate representatives from 6 other species. They met in a secure location, away from Thexlar's surveillance. "We cannot win a military conflict with humanity," Vaynara said bluntly. The Battle of Nexus 7 proved that. Their technology is more advanced than we realized. Their tactics are superior, and most importantly, they're willing to die for their cause. Our forces are not. "Then what do you propose?" asked the Chur representative. "Surrender to their demands?" "Yes," Vaynara said simply. "Because they're right. We committed genocide. Thexlar ordered the massacre of 50,000 civilians and then covered it up. The evidence is undeniable. By protecting him, we're making ourselves complicit. The Council has never surrendered members for trial by another species," another representative argued. "Then it's time we started," Vaynara said. "The alternative is watching humanity destroy our military piece by piece. They're not targeting civilians. They're not seeking conquest. They want justice. If we provide it, this can end." The debate continued for hours. Finally, they reached a decision. They contacted Ambassador Lim Seojin, humanity's new representative. She had replaced Park Jiwon after Jiwon transitioned to a military advisory role. "We have a proposal," Vaynara said. "We will surrender Councillor Thexlar and all individuals involved in the New Haven massacre for trial. In exchange, humanity must agree to a peace treaty and participate in forming a new galactic governance structure." Ambassador Lim brought the proposal to President Yoon Mirai. The president called an emergency meeting with her advisors. "What do you think?" she asked Admiral Song. "It's what we asked for," Song said. "Justice for New Haven." "But can we trust them?" Commander Hyun asked. "After everything?" "No," Captain Taemin said. "We can't trust them, but we can verify. We keep our fleet ready. We maintain our military strength. We never again put ourselves in a position where we depend on Council protection." Dr. Choi Nari spoke up. "We didn't go to war for conquest. We went to war for justice. If they're offering justice, we should take it." Former Ambassador Park Jiwon, now serving as a strategic advisor, nodded. "We've proven our point. The galaxy knows humanity cannot be dismissed. If we continue fighting after getting what we demanded, we become the aggressors. But if we accept justice and build peace from a position of strength, we set a new precedent. President Yoon considered this. What kind of new governance structure are they proposing? Full voting rights for all species based on population, not seniority, Ambassador Lim reported. Dissolution of the probationary member status. Creation of a joint commission to investigate grievances. Essentially, rebuilding the council as a true democratic body. Will the hardliners accept that? Yoon asked. They won't have a choice, Admiral Song said. Their military is broken. Their authority is shattered. The moderate species are ready for change. This is our chance to reshape galactic politics for the better. President Yoon made her decision. Accept their proposal, but make our conditions clear. We maintain full military autonomy. Human space is sovereign territory. Any future attacks on human interests will result in immediate military response, and the trials will be conducted under human law, on human soil. They won't like that last part, Lim said. They don't have to like it, Yoon replied. They committed crimes against humanity. They'll be tried by humanity. That's non-negotiable. The proposal was accepted. 3 days later, Colonel Oyuna's ghost company conducted a raid on Thexlar's fortress world. The operation was swift and precise. They captured the former counselor and 17 other individuals involved in ordering or executing the New Haven massacre. Thexlar was furious, screaming about the injustice of being arrested by primitives. His screams went unheard. The prisoners were transported to Earth. The trials began a month later, broadcast across the entire galaxy. Earth's military courtroom was packed with representatives from dozens of species. The evidence was presented methodically. The surveillance footage, the weapon analysis, the recovered orders, the testimony from tech specialist Nam Ki-wan about the data he'd recovered from Kepler Station. Thexlar's defense argued that the Council had the right to enforce territorial boundaries by any means necessary, that human colonization of the Outer Rim was a threat to established order, that harsh measures were required. The prosecution countered with simple facts: 50,000 civilians murdered. Men, women, and children executed systematically. Evidence of genocide under every definition in galactic law. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Thexlar was sentenced to life imprisonment on a human penal colony. He would spend the rest of his very long life among the species he had considered inferior. The others received similar sentences. As Thexlar was led away, he looked at the human guards and spoke. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? It doesn't. My species has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Yours has been in space for 300. Time will prove who is superior. Captain Lee Taman, attending the trial as a witness, responded quietly. Time already proved it. You murdered 50,000 of our people. We brought you to justice. That's the only proof that matters. While the trials concluded, the reformation of the Council began. The old structure was dissolved. A new body was formed, called the Galactic Assembly. Every species received representation based on population. Decisions required majority votes, not just approval from the oldest civilizations. Ambassador Lim Seojin took humanity's seat as an equal member. The symbolic importance wasn't lost on anyone. Humans were no longer probationary, no longer junior partners. They were full members with full rights. But humanity had learned its lesson. Equal membership didn't mean safety. Respect wasn't given freely. It was earned and maintained through strength. Admiral Song Daehyun remained commander of Earth's military forces. The Retribution fleet didn't disband. If anything, it grew stronger. Human shipyards worked constantly, building more vessels, more weapons, more defenses. Never again would humanity be vulnerable. Captain Lee Taman returned to New Haven with a different mission. Director Ryu Hana led the Colonial Reconstruction Authority, and Taman's ship carried the first group of new colonists. They landed near the ruins of the old settlement. A memorial had been erected in the center of what had been the town square. 50,000 names were carved into black stone. At the top, simple words in both Korean and the common galactic language: Never forgotten, never again. Dr. Choi Nari walked among the memorial stones, reading names. She had wanted to save these people. She had failed, but she could help make sure nothing like this happened again. She established a medical exchange program, teaching both human and alien doctors in emergency trauma care. If war came again, she wanted healers ready on all sides. Commander Kang Hyun took command of the Outer Rim Defense Force. His ships patrolled the territories that had cost 50,000 lives to secure. He made sure every human colony had adequate protection. Lieutenant Han Minho served under him, no longer the optimistic young officer who had believed in easy peace. He had learned that peace was maintained by those strong enough to defend it. Engineer Kim Soha designed defensive systems for human colonies. She made sure no settlement would ever again be as vulnerable as New Haven had been. Former ambassador, Park Ji-won worked as special envoy for interspecies relations. She traveled throughout the galaxy, building genuine relationships with other species. But her idealism was tempered now. She trusted carefully and verified everything. The galaxy had changed. Humanity's explosion of rage had shaken the established order. Species that had been dismissed for centuries saw that change was possible. The old guard's authority was broken. Some species resented humanity for disrupting thousands of years of tradition. Others were grateful that someone had finally stood up to the council elite. But all of them understood something new. Humanity was dangerous when threatened. They were patient until pushed too far, then absolutely relentless. They could be peaceful partners or terrible enemies. The choice was up to those who dealt with them. 6 months after the trials, President Yoon Mi-rae gave an address to the Galactic Assembly. Her speech was broadcast across civilized space. Humanity came to the stars seeking partnership, she said. We extended friendship to species we'd never met. We followed your laws, respected your traditions, and tried to earn our place through patience and good faith. She paused, letting the words sink in. We were answered with genocide. 50,000 of our people were murdered, because others believed human lives were disposable. We proved them wrong, not just with military strength, but by standing for a principle. All sentient lives have equal value. We fought not for conquest,